Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Talk Emma, the easy English podcast where we learn English the way people actually use it in real life.
I hope you're doing well today, and wherever you're listening from, at home, on a walk, or maybe while cooking, thank you for choosing to spend this time with us.
And before we get comfortable and dive in, just one small thing. If you enjoy learning English with calm conversations, real examples, and zero classroom pressure, make sure you subscribe to the podcast.
It really helps us, and it also means you won't miss future episodes like this one.
All right, now let's slow down a little.
Yeah, no rush today.
Jack, how has your day been so far?
Honestly, one of those normal days. Nothing dramatic, nothing exciting, but sometimes those are the best days.
I agree. Quiet days are good for learning. Your mind is open, not stressed.
Exactly. And today's topic actually fits that mood because it's something many learners think they understand but still feel confused about.
Yes, today we're talking about something you've probably seen many times while watching movies, reading stories, or listening to native speakers.
And that is would have plus past participle.
When learners see sentences like, I would have called you, or she would have helped, they often pause.
They understand the words separately, but together it feels blurry.
And sometimes even a little scary.
Very true. Many learners tell us, I know would, I know have, I know past verbs, but when they come together, my brain freezes.
So let's say this clearly right now. You are not weak in English if this feels confusing.
You're normal.
This structure is not usually taught properly at beginner levels, and when learners reach B1 or B2, it suddenly appears everywhere.
And no one really explains why we use it, only how.
So in this episode, we're not just memorizing rules.
We're understanding meaning, feeling, and real-life use.
And one more important thing, in this video, we're covering would have been, and how they work naturally in conversation.
That's why this lesson is best for B1 to B2 learners.
If you're A1 or A2, don't worry. You can still listen and absorb the feeling.
Think of it like listening to music before you learn the lyrics.
Nice example.
Thanks.
All right, let's begin gently. First question, Jack.
Go ahead.
Okay, when you hear this sentence, I would have helped you, what do you feel?
I feel regret.
Exactly. That's the key emotion here.
Would have often carries a feeling, not just information.
It talks about a past action, but not a real past action.
It talks about a past possibility that did not happen.
Let's break that slowly.
Yes, slowly, no jumping.
Imagine yesterday your friend was moving to a new apartment.
Okay,
You wanted to help, but you were sick.
so I didn't go.
Today, you meet your friend and say, I would have helped you, but I was sick.
That sentence tells us three things.
Yes, first, you wanted to help.
Second, you didn't help.
Third, there was a reason.
This is the heart of would have.
It's not about what happened.
It's about what could have happened but didn't.
Many learners confuse this with simple past.
Right, if you say, I helped you, that's a real action.
But I would have helped you lives in an imaginary past.
A past that exists only in your mind.
And in English, we use this structure to talk about regrets, missed chances, polite explanations, and reflections.
That's why this structure is very human language.
Yes, native speakers use it when they look back and think, if things were different.
Let's look at another example.
Okay,
You would have passed the exam, but you got sick.
so what does this mean?
It means you didn't pass.
But you had the ability.
Exactly. The situation stopped you.
This is important. Would have often shows ability plus condition.
If the condition was different, the result would be different.
Now let's talk about form, but without pressure.
Yes, just understanding, not grammar fear.
The structure is simple.
Would plus have plus past participle.
For example, would have gone, would have seen, would have done, would have helped.
And the past participle is the same one you use with have.
Like have eaten, have finished, have been.
Exactly, and that brings us to another common form, would have been.
This one is very common in conversations,
For example, it would have been amazing,
meaning it was not amazing because it didn't happen.
or that would have been nice.
Again, a polite regret.
English speakers use this a lot to sound soft, kind, and thoughtful.
Not aggressive, not blaming.
That's why this structure is very important socially.
Yes, it helps you express feelings without sounding harsh. Now let's pause for a moment.
Good idea.
If you're listening right now and thinking, oh, so that's what it means, you're doing great.
Don't try to memorize 10 sentences.
Just understand the feeling.
Now we're going to go deeper into daily life examples, common mistakes, and how learners often misuse would have.
We'll also compare it gently with other structures so you don't mix them up.
And we'll practice with situations you actually face in real life.
So before we go deeper, let's remind listeners where we are right now.
Yes, we understood that would have is not about real past actions. It's about past possibilities that did not happen.
And we talked about the feeling behind it, regret, reflection, and sometimes politeness.
Now, I think it's important we connect this structure to real-life situations people face every day.
Absolutely, because grammar only makes sense when you see yourself inside the sentence.
Let's start with something very common, work and jobs.
Good choice. Many learners need English for professional life.
Imagine this situation. You applied for a job, you prepared well, but on the interview day, you were extremely nervous.
And later, when you think about it, you say, I would have answered better, but I was too nervous.
That sentence is powerful.
Yes, because it shows you had the ability.
But something stopped you. Fear, stress, pressure.
Now compare this with a wrong sentence learners often say.
They say, I answered better, but I was nervous.
That sounds confusing.
Because answered better means you actually did well.
But in reality, you didn't.
So, would have answered better fixes the meaning.
This is why would have is so important. It protects your meaning.
Let's take another job example.
Okay.
Your manager says, "Why didn't you come yesterday?"
And you reply politely, I would have come, but my child was sick.
Notice how soft that sounds.
Yes, you're not making excuses aggressively.
You're explaining a situation calmly.
Now let's move to relationships, because this structure is very emotional there.
Oh yes, very emotional.
Imagine you forgot a close friend's birthday.
That already hurts.
Later, you meet them and say, I would have called you, but I lost my phone that day.
You're showing intention,
Exactly. You're saying, I cared, I wanted to.
but circumstances stopped you.
This is a big difference from saying, I didn't call you.
That sounds cold.
Would have adds humanity.
Now let's talk about common learner mistakes. Very important.
Yes, because many learners overuse would have.
One big mistake is using it when no condition exists.
For example, learners say, yesterday I would have gone to the market.
That sentence feels incomplete.
Because we are waiting for a reason.
Exactly. Would have needs a why.
You must say, I would have gone to the market, but it was raining.
Or, I would have gone, but I had no time.
Without that second part, the sentence feels unfinished.
Another mistake is confusing would have with wanted to.
Yes, learners often say, I would have to call you.
That's a different structure completely.
Would have called you is past imagination.
Would like to call you is present or future desire.
Small difference in words, big difference in meaning.
Now let's bring in would have been.
This one appears a lot when we talk about situations and feelings.
For example, the trip would have been fun,
meaning the trip didn't happen.
or it happened badly.
Exactly, and we often use it when we look back.
Another example, it would have been easier if you told me earlier.
This sentence shows gentle disappointment.
Not anger.
English speakers use this to avoid conflict.
Very cultural.
Now let's talk about polite English, because would have is gold here.
Imagine someone invites you somewhere, but you couldn't go.
Instead of saying, I didn't come, you say, I would have loved to come, but I had work.
That sounds warm.
And respectful.
This structure helps you sound emotionally intelligent.
That's why B1, B2 learners really need this.
Now let's do a small comparison to clear confusion.
Okay, I didn't help him.
Just a fact.
I couldn't help him.
Shows inability.
I wouldn't help him.
Shows refusal.
I would have helped him.
Shows willingness but no opportunity.
4 sentences, 4 different meanings.
This is why grammar is not boring, it's meaning.
Exactly. Now let's slow down again.
Yes, let listeners breathe.
If you're listening and thinking, wow, I've heard these sentences so many times but never understood them like this, that's progress.
You don't need to use would have perfectly tomorrow.
Just start noticing it in movies, in conversations.
In your own thoughts. We're going to practice more deeply. We'll use daily routines, family situations, mistakes learners make while speaking.
And we'll gently correct them, no pressure. So now that we understand what would have and would have been really mean, this is the part where most learners feel stuck, using it while speaking.
Yes, because understanding is one thing, but when the mouth opens, the brain suddenly goes blank.
Very true. People often tell me, I know the rule, but when I speak, I panic.
That panic is normal.
And today, we're going to remove it slowly.
Let's start with a very common speaking situation. Missed opportunities.
Imagine someone says to you, why didn't you join us yesterday?
Many learners reply with something like, I was busy.
That's correct, but it's very flat.
Now listen to this instead. I would have joined you, but I had a family commitment.
Do you feel the difference?
The second sentence feels warmer.
It shows intention.
And it sounds more natural in real conversation.
Now let's look at a mistake learners often make.
They say, I would have joined you,
This is very common.
because they forget the past participle.
So let's slow it down.
Would have plus past participle.
Join, joined. Help, helped. Go, gone.
Do, done. Say, said. If you remember this pattern, half your problem is solved.
Now let's bring this into daily life English, not exam English.
Yes, because nobody speaks like a grammar book.
Imagine you're talking about health.
Okay.
You say, I would have exercised more, but I was too tired after work.
That sentence sounds very real.
And very human.
Now compare it with this incorrect sentence learners say. I would exercise more, but I was tired.
That sounds confusing.
Because would exercise feels like a habit.
But here, we're talking about the past.
So would have exercised is the correct emotional time.
Let's move to family situations, because people talk about this a lot.
Yes, especially regrets.
For example, I would have called my parents earlier, but I got busy.
This sentence carries emotion
It carries honesty.
and no drama.
Now, let's add would have been more clearly.
Good idea.
Imagine someone says, how was the party?
And you reply, it would have been fun, but I arrived very late.
Meaning, the fun part was already over.
Exactly.
Now, a learner mistake here is saying it would be fun, but I arrived late.
That mixes time.
English is very sensitive about time.
So always ask yourself, am I talking about a past situation that didn't go as expected?
If yes, would have been.
Now let's practice thinking aloud, which helps fluency.
Yes, this is very important. Instead of staying silent, you can say things like, I would have said yes, but I needed more time to think,
This buys you time.
and keeps the conversation flowing.
Now let's talk about social
pressure situations.
Oh, this is a big one. Someone invites you somewhere you didn't want to go. Later, you explain, I would have come, but I wasn't feeling well.
Notice how polite that is.
English speakers value soft language.
This structure helps you sound respectful.
Now, let's do a real spoken correction example.
Okay.
Learner says, I didn't tell you because I forgot.
Correct, but very direct.
Now soften it. I would have told you, but it slipped my mind.
That sounds more natural.
More adult.
Now, something very important for B1 to B2 learners.
Yes.
Don't overuse would have.
Exactly. Use it when there is a reason, a condition, or a reflection.
Not for every past sentence. Otherwise, it sounds forced.
Now let's pause for a second.
If you're listening and thinking, I actually say these things in my language, you're right.
You already think this way.
English is just giving you a tool.
Okay, now it's time to bring everything together.
Yes, today we've learned would have and would have been, how to use them, and how to sound natural.
And the key is practice, not just reading examples, speaking them aloud.
Let's start with a typical day scenario.
Imagine you overslept. You tell a friend, I would have woken up earlier, but my alarm didn't ring.
Simple, real, and polite.
Exactly. And if your friend asks, did you miss breakfast?
You can say, yes, I would have eaten breakfast, but I was running late.
See, that shows intention, past action, and reflection.
Now let's go to a work scenario. Many B1, B2 learners struggle here.
Yes. Imagine you missed a meeting. You can explain politely, I would have attended the meeting, but I got caught up in another task.
Much better than just saying, I missed it.
Right, adds clarity, responsibility, and natural flow.
Now let's practice would have been.
Yes. Suppose your colleague missed a presentation. You can say, it would have been helpful if you joined, but I understand you were busy.
Polite, conversational, and empathetic.
Exactly. And you can also use would have been with emotions. The party would have been more fun if you came.
Notice how it implies the party was already happening.
Yes, it's past, unreal, reflecting what could have happened.
Now let's do a mistake correction session.
Great idea. Learners often say, I would go to the gym, but I was tired.
Not correct, because would go doesn't match the past unreal action.
Correct version. I would have gone to the gym, but I was tired.
Much more accurate, natural, and B1, B2 friendly.
Another one, social situations. Imagine you forgot a friend's birthday.
Many say, I would forget your birthday.
Yes, very literal. The natural way, I would have wished you, but I completely forgot.
See the difference? Adds emotion and context.
Exactly. Now let's talk about conditional situations.
Ah, yes, the classic if plus past perfect structure.
Right. Example, if I had known about the sale, I would have bought more clothes.
Or using would have been, if I had joined the meeting earlier, it would have been easier to understand the project.
Notice how both reflect past hypothetical situations.
Yes, that's why B1, B2 learners often love these. They sound smart without being complicated.
Now let's do a fun real-life scenario.
Okay?
Imagine you're talking about a missed movie night.
I would have joined you at the cinema, but my work ran late.
Or adding would have been, it would have been amazing to watch the movie together.
So you see, would have shows your intention, would have been shows the experience or feeling.
Exactly, and you can mix them naturally in longer sentences.
Yes, let's practice one more. Family situation.
You forgot your mom's call. You can say, I would have called you earlier, but I was in a meeting.
And your mom might say, it would have been nice to hear from you, but I understand.
See, conversation flows smoothly. Real emotions, real situations.
Now let's talk about common mistakes learners make repeatedly.
One is using would instead of would have.
Right, like saying, I would eaten breakfast.
Oops, we need the past participle.
Correct version, I would have eaten breakfast.
Another one is mixing would have and present tense. I would have liked this movie.
Nope, must be I would have liked this movie.
Perfect. Always check the verb form.
Now let's finish with a longer conversation example.
Yes. Imagine two friends chatting about a weekend trip.
Friend 1 says, I missed the hike yesterday. What happened?
Friend 2, I would have invited you, but I didn't know your schedule.
Friend 1, it would have been fun if I joined.
Friend 2, next time I'll make sure to tell you. We would have all enjoyed it together.
See, natural, flowing, and covers both would have and would have been.
Exactly. The more you practice, the more these phrases become second nature.
Yes, speak them aloud. Use in your daily life, even in small sentences.
Don't worry about perfection. Small mistakes are okay.
The goal is confidence and clarity.
And remember, these structures make you sound polite, intelligent, and reflective.
So friends, keep practicing, try your own sentences, and notice how conversations feel more natural.
We hope today's session really helps you.
And don't forget, consistency is key.
Thank you for staying with us till the end.
See you in the next episode.
And keep practicing.
Have fun with would have and would have been.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Take care.